So we're going to talk about the Eagate scandal controversy because people on the social medias are accusing EA. If you don't know who EA is, it's the company behind the FIFAs, the Maddens, the NHLs of the world. So they're accusing EA that they are selling rare cards on the black market. So who's EA? What cards am I talking about? Why is this such a big deal? We're going to talk about that on episode 17 of the podcast, please and thank you. So here we fucking go. Welcome to episode 17 of the podcast, please and thank you. It's the all-inclusive podcast where we include all the words and all the topics that you care about. So I'm going to get to the Eagate controversy in a bit. If you want to just jump to that, you can go to the time codes in the description below. Pretty quick, you just click on the arrow button. If you're on the Spotify's, you can probably do that too. If you're on the YouTube's, you can probably do that too as well. And make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification icon for more of this kind of content. If you're on the YouTube's, if you're on the Spotify, click on the follow. If you're on the iTunes, never used iTunes, still really need to use iTunes at some point. If you're on one of the other platforms that I uploaded this, because it's on a bunch of other platforms, click on that button that's like the subscribe button on the YouTube's. That would help me out. That would help me out. But something that I wanted to talk about is the YouTubes, and I wanted to talk about the YouTube algorithms because I've been learning a lot about the YouTube algorithms, and they're talking about how consistency and how momentum is so important, and if you miss an upload day, it's not good. Apparently, because if you miss an upload day, it's like telling the algorithm that, hey, you're not updating your content anymore, so maybe they won't push your videos out. Apparently, that's the thing. And basically, you are kind of like the algorithm's bitch in a way, where whatever the algorithm wants, you're just gonna have to try to follow it. And it's kind of funny because basically one of the things I was learning, and I don't even know how accurate this information is, but they were just talking about how, like, basically there's people's interests, there's the algorithm, and then there's YouTube content creators like myself. So people's interests are always changing, and essentially the algorithm is trying to chase people's interests. And what the YouTube content creators are trying to do is they're trying to sort of chase the algorithm. So basically, we are all the algorithm's bitch. And if the algorithm wants me to bend over, spread my butt cheeks, and put its tentacles in my butthole, I am going to have to be okay with that. Okay, I'm going to ask it to use some lube. That would be great. It'll make things a little bit more comfortable for me. But if it does not want to use lube, if this AI does not want to use lube, I have to be okay with that. And it can just do whatever it wants with me, regardless of whether I am okay with it or not okay with it. It doesn't have to be consensual. It can just do whatever it wants to do with me. It's kind of funny because one of the things I was learning is that there is no customer support of any sort. So let's say something happens to this account and my video gets deleted. Who do I contact? Twitter. They have a Twitter account, apparently. I'm supposed to @ them on Twitter, and from what I heard, they're not that responsive. So it is very strange that a gigantic multi-billion-dollar corporation does not have a customer service team. I know that when you're a YouTube partner, things are different. Okay, things are a little bit different when you're a YouTube partner. You get more perks, you get the community features and all that stuff. And I think you maybe you have someone to email, but I don't even know how responsive those people are. I know if you're a big YouTuber, you can make so much noise, and they'll respond to you 100%. But if you're not a big YouTuber, it's like I don't know how that stuff works, and it's a little bit scary. Because here's the thing with the YouTubes that I'm learning is I don't know that many content creators in this city. And sometimes it can feel a little bit lonely because nobody really gets what you're doing. You're like one of the few people that's doing this thing, this YouTube thing, this podcast thing, and then everyone's kind of watching your videos and listening and that stuff, and you get the support and it's great, but nobody really quite gets what you're doing, and you don't have anyone to talk to about this. You don't have anyone to share the technical knowledge with, or at least not that many people. And it feels kind of weird. And I get like dozens of comments sometimes a day. Sometimes I get a couple of comments a day. Sometimes I get way too many comments a day that I can't keep up with. Well, I wouldn't say way too many. It's just like I can't keep up with, like, so many comments that I can't keep up with. But regardless of what's going on a digital aspect, from a mental aspect, it still feels like, regardless of all these comments and the likes and the subscribes, which is great, and I freaking appreciate the hell out of that. That's so awesome. I feel so thankful that this is even happening right now. It feels so surreal. It feels like one day I'm gonna wake up and this whole thing is gonna be gone. Regardless of all this, it still feels so freaking lonely sometimes. Jesus Christ. Like, it's like, yo, you're the only person really doing this. And I understand that once I get in touch with the community in this city, things will get better. But, because of the whole COVID shit, that's not really happening anytime soon. And I am mind blown how you basically, whatever problem you have, you're gonna have to figure it out pretty much on your own. I mean, obviously there's the community and there's the online community, but there's no one to like talk to there's videos to watch. Do you guys get what I'm saying here? There's videos to watch where you can learn about this stuff. There's comments that you can read about it, but there's no human beings that you can talk to about this stuff. And it just feels so weird. Like, when I got into stand-up, there were people, there's like comics that you can talk to about this shit. It's a very social thing, stand-up. I never felt like it was like a very lonely thing. It's actually very social. Whereas, like, if you wanna, there's a lot of, I guess there's just like a lot of interests that are like that. That if you get into it and you're kind of the only person in it, it can feel kind of lonely, and you're like the only person that's doing it, and nobody else is really doing it. And if you don't find a community that also does, that is also interested in the same thing that you're interested in, is doing the same thing that you're interested in, you're always gonna feel like the only person that's kind of doing it. So that's just something that I've been going through lately. That's just something that I wanted to talk about lately. The algorithms, stuff that I've been learning about lately, and this YouTube world that feels right now, maybe because there's a pandemic going on, and that's kind of a big deal. That's kind of a big deal, but that's probably gonna go away at some point. It's probably gonna go away at some point. And once I find some sort of community, that things are gonna be much better. But if I just find a community online, that's just not enough, man. It needs to be an in-person thing, because Jesus Christ, it feels like I'm the only one in the world sometimes that I can actually speak to. And it's a weird feeling, man, about this stuff specifically. But yeah, it's a strange feeling, man. It's a strange feeling. But anyway, let's get to the topic of the day, the Eagate scandal controversy. Let's get to it. So before I talk about the Eagate scandal, I have to explain what the EA FIFA Ultimate Team is, because the whole crux of the important part, the core part of this scandal, is what's going on with FIFA Ultimate Team and how Ultimate Team exactly works. So if you don't know, there's a game mode in FIFA called Ultimate Team where players build a team to compete with other players online. It's also in Madden and NHL games, but we'll focus on FIFA just for this story. In this mode, Ultimate Team players spend literally thousands of dollars to try to get rare players that they can use to compete with in FIFA Ultimate Team. So in Ultimate Team, you draft a team and you play against other players, and there's a whole esports scene built around it too. Technically, you could try playing thousands of hours to get these players on your own, to get these like player packs on your own, but that's just unrealistic. No one has the time to do that. The mode, the Ultimate Team mode, is built to be pay to win, especially if you want to compete seriously, which a lot of people do. So if you want to actually play and stand a chance of winning against your competitors, you'll need to spend your own real money and buy this currency called FIFA coins. Here's the thing, to earn FIFA coins in the game without buying them with real money, you can play matches in Ultimate Team, you can complete squad building challenges and sell items or trade players. There's like a couple of ways to do it, but like I said, if you want to actually play and stand a chance of winning, you'll need to spend your own money and buy FIFA coins and get these player packs. Now these packs give you a chance to win rare players that can give you a competitive advantage, and that's where they make the monies. To show you how popular this mode is, EA make like over $1 billion a year just from Ultimate Team mode. Just from that mode, from the player packs and all this shit, the FIFA coins, they make over $1 billion a year. There are so many stories online of people spending thousands of dollars on just this, man. It's crazy, it's insane. There's this guy there's a story from Eurogamer.com, and he talks about how he spent over $10,000 of his own money in the span of 2 years on just this mode. He even says in the story that apparently he has a lot of disposable income. He says, myself and my fiance are fortunate enough to have a healthy disposable income, so this kind of amount, which is $10,000, wouldn't have caused a strain on us financially. I do, however, have the utmost sympathy for those in a position of low income who may also be or become addicted to buying loot boxes. So this guy was lucky that he's got a lot of money, and it seems like he has a lot of disposable income, but man, there's so many people addicted to this, and they're spending hundreds, thousands of dollars getting into credit card debt. Some people, some kids, some teenagers are using their mom and dad's credit cards to buy this stuff. It's like crazy. So what's going on with the whole Eagate thing? What's going on with this scandal? Well, imagine spending hundreds of hours and spending thousands of dollars of your own money on building your team, and it turns out that there's these EA employees, because their only way to do this is if you somehow work for EA. There's these EA employees that are selling these items that you're working your ass off for, and they're selling them in the black market for anywhere between 600 to 1700 euros. The hashtag is called Eagate, and it's trending on Twitter, and this trending hashtag started with screenshots of players communicating with someone that apparently only needed your EA ID. So apparently they just need your EA ID. They need your EA ID, you give them a bunch of money, and they'll be able to give you these kind of rare players. The person also emphasizes that there's no risk in the process, and they can't tell you exactly how it works for security reasons. But I don't know, man, for like 600 to 1700 euros just for player packs, like I'd rather spend that money on like GameStop stocks or just stocks in general, or at least adopt a few gorillas. That would be pretty sick. But if that's what you want to do with your money, totally respect that. Now, EA has released a statement about this. So they released 2 statements. So one of them came out only 2 days ago, and this one came out a couple of days ago. So I'm going to read their first statement first. We are aware of the allegations currently circulating within our community related to FIFA 21 Ultimate Team items. A thorough investigation is underway, and if we identify improper conduct, we will take swift action. The rest of the statement doesn't really matter. The whole point is they're looking into it. So recently, they released a new statement, and this one was way more detailed than the previous one. The previous one was basically like, okay, we're gonna look into it, we'll see what's up. The next one, they broke things down in a lot of detail on exactly what's going on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read some snippets out of that, and I'll focus on the important part. Earlier this week, we were made aware of suspicious activity relating to highly rated content in FIFA Ultimate Team. We learned that FUT items were granted to individual accounts that did not earn them through gameplay by a blah 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 blah. It appears that one or more EA accounts which were either compromised or being used inappropriately by someone within EA. That's pretty freaking key right there. Directly entitled items to these individual accounts. So they just confirmed that someone within EA is actually doing this. So that's some employees gone rogue type shit. So let's go on with the rest of the statement. Our initial investigation shows questionable activity involving a very small number of accounts and items, although it is not a large number. If these allegations prove out, this activity is unacceptable. And they're also saying that it's not a large number of people, which is actually pretty key, because the big question is how many people are actually using these? And it looks like it's not that many people, so it makes it, I guess, a little bit better, but let's read on for the rest of the statement. So in the next part of the statement, they actually explain a concept called content granting. Now, this is pretty important because it actually highlights where the problem could be starting, where the problem could be coming from. Like, how is this even a thing? So there's this thing called content granting. Content granting is the process by which specific in-game items are directly distributed to a specific player account. This is different from a points or pack grant and usually takes the form of a specific individual item. In FIFA, that could be a player kit or consumable item unless they are issued to replace lost content, blah, blah, blah. So basically they're saying there's a system called content granting where they actually can do this. So there's two main ways. They highlighted three, but there's two main ways that could be the cause of this issue. The two main ways is basically through their customer service team. They can actually do content granting, which is basically if there's an issue on their end. Let's say you bought a loot box, for example, and they know that you just spent a lot of money on buying this loot box, and they had some technical issue on their end, and then they can end up fixing it on the customer service side. So now they're telling us that it could basically be someone in their customer service team that has the ability to do that, or it could be someone in their testing team, and they actually explain exactly what their testing team is capable of and how they actually test things in a live environment in their dedicated servers. So there's a chance it could be either their testing team or their customer service team. And you know, traditionally, like testing teams and customer service teams, especially customer service, are get paid like what, minimum wage, a little above minimum wage. So it makes sense for someone in customer service to potentially be exploiting this. So there's a pretty good chance that it's someone in their customer service team that's doing this. I'm not sure if it's someone in their testing team. I don't know about EA, but just from the tech companies that I worked for, testers are usually paid pretty well. I know in the video game world they're not paid pretty well, but in the tech world in general, like QA is just as important as like a designer, developer, animator, etc. But I don't know. I know in video games QA people get paid like shit. So it could be someone in the testing team as well. So it seems like they're going to be able to find out who did this. It seems it's most likely their customer service team or someone they're testing. Now, look, this is just my own commentary. Like, I'm not 100% sure. But if you actually read the paragraph, it just highlights that the customer service team and the testing team have, like, the ability to do that. To, like, give certain pieces of content to people for basically for free or for whatever reason, for some technical issue or something like that. Or in the testing team side is if they're testing some specific feature out, they can just go ahead and give specific accounts content. So that's what it looks like is happening with the whole Eagate scandal. I think it looks like here's the thing. I wouldn't really blame EA on this. I don't think EA is evil for doing this. Like, they're doing what they can to like look into this. I know some people are trying to blame EA in the comment section and all that. As much as they are one of the most hated companies in the video game world, I feel like Activision deserves way more hate than EA. But I just don't think this is one of the reasons why you want to hate EA. This is one of those, like, it sounds like a legitimate issue that's happening within their company, and they just didn't catch it for whatever reason. You could say that that's very irresponsible of them, but I mean, I guess so. It is an irresponsible thing on some level, but it's like they have their own rules and regulations, I assume, when it comes to like testing and when it comes to customer service, where they're supposed to track all this stuff. But it looks like their employees found a way to kind of go under that regulation or restriction that they have. So I wouldn't really blame them that much. It sounds like a pretty legitimate issue that a company or / corporation could have. But anyway, it looks like they honestly just got it under control. Like, keep in mind that this is EA's baby. Ultimate Team makes them $1 billion a year, and it's over $1 billion. Last I checked, it was like over like 1.5 billion, and it's only growing every year, which means more people are getting addicted to it every single year. So yeah, a lot of people have comments on the Ultimate Team about how addicting it is and how EA needs to change that. But let's be realistic. This company is making so much money from Ultimate Team, and you're basically asking them, hey, can you guys like make less money? Are you guys okay with that? No, you don't want to do that? You don't want to make less money from your Ultimate Team mode, from your feature? No, they're not gonna try to make less money. If anything, this is going to get way more addicting. This is kind of like the dark side of video games, is they're actually making them to become more and more addicting as time goes on. And that's part of the reason why I like just playing single player games, man. Like, I don't like playing these microtransaction filled games. The only microtransaction filled video game that I've played recently has been Apex Legends. And Apex Legends is freaking awesome, obviously, but even that game I didn't end up buying anything, because I'm just like, oh, okay, you can just like pretty much like play the hell out of the game and get all these loot boxes and all this shit, and you can dress up your hero in a cool way here and there, but for the most part the game is the same. But player expression is such a big part of the game, and I could kind of see myself, if I played the game for a long period of time, I could see myself ending up buying these microtransactions. But my whole point is, for the most part, and apart from Apex and maybe a game here and there, I don't play these microtransaction filled games. I just find a lot of times these microtransaction filled games have no soul, man. They got no soul. Like the single player offline games, like The Last of Us, God of War, Horizon, these awesome big blockbuster games, there's so much more soul, there's more personality, there's more creativity put in these games, whereas a lot of times these microtransaction filled games, they're lacking in the soul department, they're lacking in the personality department, man. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but every now and then I'll see a comment that kind of agrees with me and is just like, yeah, that's why I stay away from the microtransactions, because they're just trying to get your mind. They're just trying to increase player engagement and look at their data points going up. That's all they care about. They don't actually care about making the game the best kind of game that it can be. They don't actually give a shit about making the game having the best story or anything like that. And the best example to this, Assassin's Creed. Look at Assassin's Creed. They haven't, look at what was it? The Assassin's Creed Origin, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Like, the game has so many problems and the story is not that great for any of them. And they never improve, man. They just never improve. The story never improves. It's always kind of the same thing. It's always fetch quests. But because all they care about is engagement numbers. And this game, the Assassin's Creed, is one of those franchises that, to me, I feel like has lost its soul a long time ago. But having said that, I am well aware that the Assassin's Creed franchise is also more popular now than it's ever been. They sell more copies of that game than they've ever sold. So I guess I'm maybe one of the few here. I see a lot of people complaining about Assassin's Creed online, but yet their numbers are like bigger than they've ever been before. So it's a little bit of a strange one. But anyway, that's kind of how I feel about Assassin's Creed. Thank you guys for listening and for joining. If you're on the audios, if you're on the videos, thank you guys so much for listening to me rant about the Assassin's Creed, rant about my loneliness with YouTube, and rant about the Eagate scandal. Thank you guys for joining episode 17 of the podcast. Please and thank you. Peace out.